Number 5 ingredient. Are we together? Number 5 ingredient is conclusion and recommendation. Conclusion and
explain the other point.
yes.
You were number 2.
Number 2.
You were didn't go to number 3 and number 5.
Yes. I said I read it. I read bullet 3. I said when you are discussing, you must have seen some literature you overlooked before. So your discussion now will allow you to understand that you have omitted some literature. Then you now tie it down together and prove very important in your interpretation. That is, discussion is more or less that you are interpreting your findings. And you must interpret your findings with what? With support of literature. And that is why bullet 4 was saying that you relate your results with other previous works or in contrast. It can be supporting, it can be opposing. It can be corroborating it, it can be contrasting it. That's what we are trying to say. You may have, all your results may contrast, it doesn't matter. All your results may contrast, may be opposite of what people have found out. That doesn't matter. That doesn't make you a bad researcher. Are you getting what I'm saying now? It doesn't make you a bad researcher. So that is what we are talking about, discussion. It's very, very important. From your discussion, you are contributing to the body of knowledge. From your discussion. Some people, majority of qualitative researchers failed in this aspect. They don't discuss by supporting with literature. They just transcribe and that's all. No, it's not done. So, remember we are talking about articles, not thesis or dissertation now. Now, conclusion and recommendation is number 5 ingredient of articles. Conclusion. Look at the recommendation there and look at conclusion this side. The proportion that gives meaning to your research and your result. The proportion that gives meaning to your research and your result. So, the objective of the conclusion section is to examine the result, determine whether they solve the research question or not. Meaning that, determine whether they solve what? The objective. Remember, some study can call it objective, some can call it a research question. We are saying the same thing. Then compare them with themselves and to other results from literature. Explain and interpret them and then draw conclusion or derive generalization if it is quantitative, and interpret it if it is qualitative, and make recommendation for applying the result or for further research. This is very, very important. So, conclusion of article, colleagues, is different from conclusion of the thesis. In conclusion of the thesis, you tell us what you have done in that thesis. Maybe you are concluding chapter 4. You are concluding chapter 3. You say this chapter, we have done research paradigm, you have done research approach, that's conclusion there. But conclusion in an article is different from conclusion in each chapter of your dissertation or your thesis. So in conclusion of an article, we want to see if the research question you postulated in the beginning has been thoroughly answered. How do you know? You know it through your interpretation of results. So that means that your conclusion has a lot to do with your data analysis and interpretation. Take note. Conclusion has a lot to do with data analysis and what? Interpretation. Then your recommendations. There are 3 things I put here. BCP. Your recommendation. Some of us will just write recommendation as if you are writing thesis. Your recommendation must be based on your findings, not your idea, not your bias. Your recommendation must be based on your what? On your findings. Suffice to say that in conclusion and recommendation has a lot to do with your what? With your findings, data analysis, and data interpretation. I repeat, conclusions and recommendations of articles must be based on your data findings, data analysis, and data interpretation. So, it must be very brief, very concise, very clear, do not be ambiguous on how to suggestions should be implemented, be very practical. Then it must the vague recommendation usually result into insufficient research. It must be precise, not vague. It must be precise. What is your conclusion? Remember, some of you took the article from your thesis or your dissertation and your recommendation, your thesis still flow in your brain, and you are forgetting that this is an